we've come a long way from the time when I was flying my little fighters 25 years ago, and I thought I was high-tech going to the moon, but this is head and shoulders above that, I believe.
The thing I find kind of interesting is just like your kid's video game.
Mm-hmm.
You have a little joystick just like you do at your home computer, and it works through computers to those flight control surfaces. You know, today's fighters are, including the F-117, F-16, F-18, et cetera, are basically flying video games.
That's right. Takeoff on that F-18 Hornet made by McDonnell Douglas, single-seat aircraft for the Marines and the Navy.
Has two F404 engines generating over 32,000 pounds of thrust, and that means it's better than 1-to-1 thrust ratio. It can accelerate vertically.
It's used by the Blue Angels for their acrobatic shows. It's easy to distinguish it. You can see the double tails, which are canted outwards, and those tails are set pretty far forward on the fuselage.
It's one of the most maneuverable aircraft ever built. It can maneuver down almost to zero airspeed. It can fire those guns and missiles at almost any angle of attack. It's a tremendous air-to-air aircraft, but it was primarily designed to be a strike fighter. You can see as it's maneuvering, it has pylons under the wings able to carry a wide variety of different munitions.
Yeah, the Marines are using it now, of course, in Desert Storm, and we see some missiles on the wingtips. What are those, Gary?
Those will be heat-seeking Sidewinder missiles, and you can also see the 500-pound bombs carried on the various wing pylon stations. F-18 at work here. See it carrying 400 or 500-pound bombs off on this shot. Now you see it deploying a missile, air-to-air missile, probably in this shot. Another one's a Sparrow missile, radar-guided.
That's the F-102 drone that it's just impacted on.
That's the IR Sidewinder missile coming off, doing the same thing.
I'm glad I'm wasn't in that 102 there.
Let's do it.
Man, what a hit.
some high drags that came off and obviously did his job.
Good view of two-ship formation here. A lot of ordnance hanging on board.
Good shot of a Sparrow coming off an F-18.
Here, you know, there's we see a lot of launches of weapons here, like these bombs coming off. It's just not a given that the weapons are going to work come off the airplane right, so there's a lot of testing that has to be done.
You can see they fire a number of rocket-propelled air-to-surface missiles, such as the Maverick missile. Here you see a harpoon coming off the aircraft, and that's an air-to-surface for against ships.
Yeah, flying right over the water, right into the side of a ship.
Exceptionally good missile.
The Iraqis have a similar missile made by the French called the Exocet.
See, the aircraft has a centerline tank on it. It takes fuel internally, and the way you can get from a long distance in the airplane is to be refueled. The Navy refuels with a basket configuration with a probe on the aircraft that is inserted into the basket on this KC-10 air tanker that the Air Force flies. This F-18 pilot's going to move his aircraft so he can put the probe up into the basket and therefore refuel the aircraft. That allows him to go quite a bit further from the carrier than he otherwise would be able to do.
Harry, does the when he gets the probe into the drogue there, does the fuel start automatically?
No, generally speaking, he'll check with the boom operator and make sure he's got a good connection. Then he'll go ahead and refuel the aircraft.
And it just fills it up, right? And he just disconnects and the fuel flow stops automatically, hopefully?
Just like your gas station, you say, fill them up.
Yeah. That's terrific. You can see the wingman out there flying, waiting their turn to fill them up. This is unlike the Air Force scheme. The Air Force scheme has a flyable boom where the operator on the airplane, you get a little view of it sticking out underneath the tail of the KC-10. That boom is flown down to the airplane, and the operator on the airplane really does a lot to help it. And we're on short final for carrier landing. You can see the hook down between the landing gear. His objective is to catch that 3-wire on the carrier deck. When you do that, you got a perfect landing. We're going off now to park position, and the guys had a successful mission. You can see the thumbs up there, airplane's okay. This is really a lot of activity on the carriers. It seems like mass confusion, but the guy's really well organized there. And this is some crash, I'll tell you.
It's certainly a controlled crash. It'll be right above a stall as they hit the deck. As you said earlier, then they jam that power forward and ready to go.
Man, what a great airplane. The F-14 Tomcat, the aircraft of Top Gun. It's a twin engine made by Grumman. It's got swing wing. We're hooking up to the catapult now. Crew of 2 here. Pilot in the front seat, of course. The weapons systems operator in the back seat runs the armaments of the airplane. This catapult shot is some experience as we accelerate.
You know, Charlie, the F-14 is a big airplane. It is the leading air defense or air superiority aircraft the Navy has, but it's a big airplane. It's around 70,000 pounds when it's fully grossed. And to think about that large of an airplane, it's about a third larger than the F-18. Being as maneuverable it is really a testimony both to the Navy and the engineers that put that thing together. It's quite an airplane.
That's right. Good view looking backwards as we accelerate down the carrier deck on takeoff.
Well, you can also see a clear picture of what the F-14 looks like, with the vertical tails being slightly canted and somewhat separated. Now, it does look a little bit like an F-15. A lot of people will mistake it for that, but when the F-14 has its wings swept back, it's in a pure delta shape. And even the F-15, which is about the same size, it's slightly smaller than the F-14. You'll see that it's easy to distinguish because the wings will either be straight ahead like you just saw, or they'll be swept way back in the delta wing. The F-15 does not do that.
Yeah. This Tomcat's for the Fleet Air Defense, of course, and has the Phoenix missiles we saw firing just a moment ago. This is from the tail, it looks like, of the Tomcat as we're coming in, as he approached the deck. Good view of the tail hook. Uh-oh, we missed it on that one. He's back off again.
You can see why they practice putting in the afterburner and going around, just as if every landing was going to be a touch and go. Well, they made it this time, Charlie.
Yeah, that's right. You know, it's different from the Air Force. You land on a runway and you pull the power back. On the Navy, you land and you push the power up. Because if you don't get that wire, you're off the side of the deck in a hurry, so you got to be prepared to fly.
Well, you saw just a moment ago that net, that's to be rigged in case there's some sort of an emergency and they have to recover the aircraft and there's no tail hook or something of that nature. They can rig those kinds of systems.
Yeah, it's called a barrier. Keep it, it'll stop the aircraft.
Well, you can see from here the two-person cockpit really works well for the F-14. The back seat guy in the back, we used to call him Gibbs, but the guy in the back is the one who runs all the systems. He picks up the radar and tunes it up to make sure he's able to find the bad guys out there to go after. You know, the guy in the front also has a little bit of a situation going on here. His heart has just started after he got off the cat.
Hey, great view of the swing wing here as he gets into max speed configuration. Tomcat on the tail of an F-4.
Notice those wings are straight out, Charlie.
That's right.
You've got to slow down with that F-4.
Man, those landings are really something, I'll tell you. That Georgia, as I told John Young one day, Georgia feelings loose.
Time after time after time. It's the only way to get back. You can think about it that way. That kind of motivates you to get back right.
You can see the impact onto the deck. These airplanes have to be sturdily built. And of course, they're the finest in our inventory.
That's one of the reasons it weighs so much. It's in terms of the other fighters, it is the heaviest air-to-air interceptor around. And one of the reasons is because it has landed carrier.
That's right. A great view of takeoff. You see the horizontal tail pitched straight up. That sort of gets the right attitude at liftoff. Uh-oh, missed another one there. Back in the air again.
These guys are home safe and ready for another mission. This is one thing, you look at that airplane parked right on the edge of the deck, it sure is a pretty airplane.
It sure is, yeah. Coming up from the hangar deck, they keep most of them below deck. That's where the maintenance is performed and armaments are put on and things like that. You can see on the left there, the blast fence, or the fence is up. That's to deflect the jet blast so it won't blow people down the deck. full afterburner, you probably got 500 or 600 mile-an-hour winds coming out of the back end of those engines.
Sure is a head snapper when they take off, isn't it?
Yeah. Of course, they take off with the wings fully extended. They got him swept here, but when he takes his position on the cat, they'll swing the wings forward, and that gives them maximum lift on the aircraft at the right angle of attack when they get airborne here.
Full afterburner at both of those 20,000-pound motors, cranked up to about 40,000 pounds of thrust and going off.
Beautiful shot. That's a lot of fun. Never launched on a F-14 from a carrier, but been on some of the others, and it's really a great experience. A lot of stress there.
Look at this wing sweep, and as it accelerates, still turns well.
That's right.
Grumman had a good idea when they built this airplane. It's the type of aircraft that's maintained air superiority for the Navy for many number of years. But of course, the primary weapon for the F-14 is the Phoenix missile.
Yeah.
And that's a tremendous weapon. It goes out many miles. They can launch that thing at 50 miles from the targets they're shooting at. So it's a long-range interceptor and has that tremendous long-range capability. Phoenix missile will strike as much as 50 miles away. So
yeah, it's incredible.
Even before you see it visually or on radar, you'll have a missile headed your way.
I'm impressed. Back in my days in F-86, you had to get almost run over the guy before you could shoot your armament.
Well, the F-14 is an amazing aircraft. It's all-weather interceptor. It does its job and has done a remarkable job of fleet defense over the years, and is doing a great job in Desert Storm.
A6 Intruder made by Grumman Aircraft. It's two-place, side-by-side. A great old airplane. It's been around since 1960 was the first flight. Went into the service in 1963, was used extensively in Vietnam, and is a real workhorse in the fleet still today.
A stands for attack, and that's what this aircraft does. It's subsonic.
And it's a tremendous weight-carrying, high bomb load aircraft that weighs almost as much in its fully loaded condition as a World War II heavy bomber. So it's amazing what these airplanes can carry. It doesn't look like the Hornet or the Tomcat. It's almost like a fighter with the mumps, if you will. It's just really a big fat fuselage.
Now the advantage of having an attack aircraft's got that big radar in the nose of the aircraft that gives it a good displays as it goes into the battle area, allowing it to get a good on-target attack. It does everything right. It's the type of airplane that'll go in, it'll drop bombs and do it well. It'll carry both smart bombs like they're using in Desert Storm, or carry dumb bombs, the old 500-pounders and 1,000-pound bombs that the Navy uses. It's just a very versatile aircraft.
The Navy pilots have a great deal of stress, not only in combat, but also landing these highly sophisticated aircraft on this postage stamp runway. We come out for some carry ops here. You can see it's a big airplane. We got the wings folded over. Getting ready for launch. Don't want to take off with the wings folded. Get your attention. Of course, they don't ever let you do that.
Well, getting ready to launch this thing off the CAD. Now, Charlie, the thing I notice about this is it is basically a real experience every time it goes off the deck, because this will be fully loaded with gas and bombs. And without afterburners, it's everything it can do to get off the deck.
That's right. It's every airplane that's launched actually off the deck, it seems to me just right above the stall speed. The earlier versions, of course, were just strictly attack. They would go in to hit strategic ground targets or tactical targets like fuel dumps and ammunition storage areas, command and control, such things as that.
A lot of different systems in the cockpit, and what I know about the airplanes that's been around quite a while, there's quite a number of different configurations in the cockpit, depending on which version of the aircraft you're flying. Now, they have a tanker version of the aircraft where it refuels other fighters. They have an electronic aircraft, the EA-6B,
right,
carries 4 people in it. They have a cockpit behind the front cockpit, so it's quite a versatile, flexible airplane. The Navy uses it in its intended role, and that's as attack. That's part of the reason for force projection capabilities the Navy offers.
Here's the night attack, Gary.
As you see, the low-light television is tracking the target, and as he flies over the target, the camera follows. And then there's some munitions, look like cluster bombs, dropped on the target. Did a pretty good job of it.
Man, that's something right on top of it.
Well, Charlie, this looks like the tanker version of the A6, as it's going out to provide air refueling.
Right, you can see all the fuel tanks hung on the pylons there. Lining up for another cat shot. Coming forward, wings unfolding. Glass fence coming up.
There's a lot of folks scurrying around underneath the airplane right at the last minute, aren't there?
They make a turn right away after they get airborne to get out of the path of the ship in case they have a problem.
And here he comes giving us a little bit of the deck action.
Yeah, all the ordnance gone. He's coming off the target. Here we go, just salvo them all off.
Snake eyes. You know, those are 500-pound bombs with fins, protruding fins that are going to provide high drag drop or projectile into the target. As you may notice, coming aboard in the A6 a little slower than it was in the F-14.
Yeah. Professional in every sense of the word. Loading up some ordnance here.
So we've got some 500-pound bombs. We'll be loading some nose fuses in. When they anytime you load a bomb, you've got to put a fuse in it and then wire it so that it can be properly armed when it comes off the pylon.
Right.
Munitions experts really get to be good at that.
Sure carry a lot, don't they?
They carry a lot of bombs in the A6, and of course that's what it means by attack. It carries 16 bombs off the deck at this point.
Man, it's fully loaded here, isn't it? He's ready to go.
Well, that's his job. The A6 attack. It hauls the iron to where the problems are. Corsair 2, Charlie. It's basically another attack aircraft that the Navy operates. They build it. The Air Force also flies it. The Air National Guard and Tactical Air Command both flew the aircraft for a number of years.
Yeah, it's a single-seater. Been around a long time, like the A6 we just talked about. This airplane's 1965 vintage, one of its first flight. Been through a lot of different models, of course, and upgraded as new bombs, new ordnance, new avionics came on board.
Well, it was the first smart aircraft to drop dumb bombs, if you want to put it that way. The avionics on board the aircraft set a new standard in bombing accuracy. With the new heads-up displays and things like that that are now common on airplanes, were first put into airplanes in the A7.
Right. The airplane from head on looks a lot like the old F-86 that the Air Force used back during the Korean War. In fact, the first airplane I flew was F-86L, the interceptor model.
Well, this is a shorter, stubbier version of the F-8 that the Navy flew as an air-to-air aircraft primarily. But they call this a slough, a short, little, ugly feller.
Yeah, man. You know, it's subsonic, of course. It's not a sleek, supersonic airplane. Never was designed for that. Most attack airplanes aren't, at least in this vintage. The newer ones, the Hornet are, but because it's also a fighter role.
What you see is the crosshairs of the laser designator on the approach end of a bridge, and as long as that crosshair stays on there, it will illuminate the target, and then the free-fall laser-guided bomb will strike it.
It retracts the hook and any taxis into park position.
Well, they can carry a wide variety of different weapons. Very much like the A6 we saw earlier, it carries a wide range of bombs and missiles. It's particularly good at carrying the Maverick missile, which is a tank killer. So you can see that the Navy will be using the A7 in Desert Storm to do a lot of different things, provide close air support for the Marines, also to attack the Republican Guards.
Not too many of them left in the active fleet inventory. Not exactly sure how many squadrons, but it's phasing out this airplane, and the Hornet will take over.
AV-8B Harrier, flown by the U.S. Marines and the Royal Navy.
Yeah, called a jump jet. It's vertical takeoff, and then it's also stall, short takeoff and landing. Here we come, vertical takeoff, like a helicopter, but with a jet engine. They can move the jet engine nozzles to give them the thrust in the direction that they need to vector it in. So it's really thrust vector control.
I think it sort of typifies the word versatile. The aircraft with its vectored thrust engines can be landed anywhere, on a road, on a small playground, anywhere in the world you can land this aircraft and take off.
Yeah. A lot of this footage we're seeing here is taken off from improvised fields, roads. All you need is some support equipment. You go land right next to the tanks if you have to. You can see a truck in the background over there. It looks like a road somewhere out in the boondocks.
As the pilot walks around the aircraft, does his pre-flight check, he'll be looking at a lot of things. One of the things he'll be looking at is those vector thrust nozzles on the bottom of the aircraft that allow the aircraft to be flown vertically. It's a fairly advanced airplane. Although it's been around for a number of years, their avionics in the cockpit are pretty advanced because it carries a wide range of different weapons. Fairly short range as far as the actual distance the aircraft can fly. It still is very effective for the Marines. Since the Marines plan to use it off ship and support amphibious landings and short-range activities, it does their job remarkably well.
Right. You notice that on carrier takeoffs, mostly it's a short takeoff. Don't use a catapult like most of the other airplanes off. Here's one getting ready to launch as one comes in for landing. Amazing versatility on the airplane. They use the takeoff run because they can carry more ordnance and more fuel and stuff like that. In other words, just lift more weight off the carrier deck as they go into battle.
I noticed in the Falklands War that the British used just regular ships with helicopter platforms to ferry some of the what they called kestrels or harriers to the Falklands War, and they were able to use different kinds of boats rather than just aircraft carriers.
Right. You get a good view here. The main landing gear, the nose gear and the main gear are in the center of the fuselage. The two outriggers that you see there are basically just to stabilize the airplane until it gets flying speed, and when it lands so it won't tip over, they've got those two outriggers. A lot of airplanes use those. We even got the B-52 has some outriggers on its wingtips.
The pilots clearly do a good job of flying the aircraft. Here you say taking off on a ramp.
Yeah, look at that ski jump. That's to help it get airborne a lot quicker. It gives it a good angle of attack, and as it goes up the ramp, and it gives it more, which gives it more lift, and it gets airborne in a shorter distance.
Well, you can see it carries a lot of bombs also.
Man, look at that.
It's a real workhorse, particularly for this type of aircraft. It carries at least 8 500-pound bombs and a wide range of other munitions. It's also pretty maneuverable.
It can defend itself too, Gary. It's got a gun on board for air-to-air and ground attack. Plus it's got some air-to-air missiles that it can carry.
Well, there you see it with the Sidewinder.
Missile launch right there. Another one. Multiple launch. Some high drag weapons coming off.
Yeah, right on target.
These are typical bombs here. Low drag.
We can see why the Marines would like it. You can use it in close proximity to friendly troops. get good accuracy. The Marines for many, many years have tried to provide their own close air support. They proved that in World War II as a good technique. Now what you see here is a cluster bomb that they're using quite frequently against both artillery emplacements and other types of emplacements for the Republican Guard.
Aircraft, of course, is a single seat, which always is great for a fighter pilot. Don't have anybody in there to talk to you. You mentioned earlier, Gary, the aircraft was developed by the British for the Royal Air Force and the Royal Navy. It was brought over this country and adapted for Marine use, and our services, the only ones that fly it are the U.S. Marines. Taxiing in behind some ordnance there.
This aircraft is always a favorite at air shows because it does some very different kinds of things.
Yeah, I've been in an air show one time where the guy came up, hovered right in front of us and took a bow, tipped the nose, and then spun around like on a dime, and off he went again. Great shot of the Tomahawk cruise missile in flight over the ocean somewhere in the world.
Well, Charlie, this is quite a weapon. The cruise missile has a lot of different ways it can be deployed, from ships, submarines. But it's a very accurate weapon. It can be used against ships and against other kinds of targets.
It's got a conventional warhead. Generally, it's about a 1,000-pound conventional explosive on board. You can see it really can create a lot of damage and highly accurate. That missile could have come 250, even as far as 700 miles.
You see it being launched from a submarine torpedo tube here, and as it gets airborne, as it gets out of the torpedo tube and gets into the water, it's propelled upward by air pressure, and then the rocket motor lights off and launches it into the air. The rocket motor burns for a few seconds, burns out, and a jet motor takes over.
When the jet motor starts, wings deploy and the fins deploy, the intake goes out, and she's on her way.
There are a number of different ways of launching the Tomahawk. There's also a number of different ways of the Tomahawk guiding itself to the target. There's 4 different varieties of the Tomahawk. You'll see all of them in the next few minutes. You see this one burns off, the rocket drops off. You see another way of it being launched here on a horizontal launch. See the Tomahawk in full flight here with the intake and the wingspan. The little internal jet engine lets it fly about 500 miles per hour. Now that's fast enough at low altitude to avoid most threats.
Yeah. Explain the guidance system, Gary.
Well, it has three different kinds of guidance systems. In the ship guidance system, it uses both an INS and a radar system to be able to find the target. When it's going against a ship like this, it has to be able to find a target that moves around a lot. For that reason, it has a guidance system that uses both the knowing where it's located and where the ship is located, so it has to find it by radar. Against a fixed target, such as a land target, it uses two types of different kinds of navigation. In this case, it's going to be using contours. It maps contours, compares that to the contours it knows it's supposed to be flying over, and makes small corrections to the targets. In addition to that, it has a digital map that can be used as well. In the computer, it carries a view of what the terrain is supposed to be flying over looks like, compares that to what it actually sees on the ground, and makes corrections. So you can see it depends on the accuracy needed. What you see here is a picture of the overlaying of the computer map against the real picture it sees. And it is a very accurate weapon system when using this DSMAC type of direction.
Yeah, we've seen some of the deliveries here, extremely accurate. After traveling 300, 400, 500 miles to come right over a building, or right into a ship, or right over a revetment that contains an airplane is remarkable.
What you see here is the ground controllers planning a mission. It allows them to look at what information they have, the terrain, the defenses that it will have to fly through, and plan a route that will get the Tomahawk to its target. As you see, it can fly in a terrain following mode, but what it's actually using is a pre-planned route. It can be delivered in a number of different ways. It can be delivered in a vertical dive, as you've just seen, or it can be delivered horizontally, and you'll get a chance to see all those deliveries. Also, as I said earlier, it can be launched in a number of different ways, vertically,
here it comes out vertically, yeah.
Quite a flexible missile.
It's pretty good size. Actually, the thing's about 20 feet long, 8-foot wingspan.
We'll need to have a little bit of gas to get to the target. It does fly at medium and low altitudes, and that'll, of course, affect the range. The Tomahawk has the advantage of being able to be employed in a number of different ways. As you saw, what you saw there was an airburst. That means that it can take out a revetted target. As it comes over the protected target, instead of trying to drive through the revetment to that, it can burst over the target, causing an overpressure to destroy the target.
That was the conventional warhead, probably a 1,000-pounder.
In the new advanced versions of the Tomahawk, they also use some other guidance systems, such as a what's called global positioning system for updates. It has basically an inertial navigation set that allows it to navigate around the world, a very accurate one that can be deployed and updated. As you can see here, the rocket motor is burning. It deploys the little fins on the back of the Tomahawk, then as it drops away, the wings and the inlet come out, allow the motor to start, and then to fly to the target.
There comes one out of a mobile launcher.
Well, as we know, the Iraqis have got the Scuds and they can move them around in mobile launchers, but I'll tell you what, I'd hate to try to find these, because allows you to launch them anywhere.
Well camouflaged, isn't it?
Well, it's well camouflaged, and they can pull it out for a launch and launch in very short order.
Direct hit. That just boggles your mind how accurate they are. Here comes some bomblets out. What's the proper name for those?
Well, that's a submunition that is delivered as one of the possible warheads in the Tomahawk. In this case, it's an area munition. It can be very useful against aircraft parked on runways or Scud missile sites.